Hello, everyone. My name is Zelda. I am the face behind the Somatic Arcana. This is my first video. I'm really excited to have you here. Today, I'm going to be doing a little choose your own adventure, pick a pile 3-card reading. I'm really excited. I love pick your own pile readings because it really encourages you to let your own intuition guide you on the messages that you would like to receive. This is an offering that I am giving you, and I am trusting that you're going to use your own discernment in what messages are feeling like they're really meant for you, what insights, what explorations you'd like to have this lend to your week ahead. I'm going to be using 3 different decks in this reading. The Points of View Oracle deck, which is brand new. I just got it last night. I'm going to be reading the little description for each card and then connecting it to the Lilifer Tarot deck and to the Uncertain Oracle. So it'll be 1 card from each of those decks. So like I said, I'm gonna like the Points of View Oracle deck I just received. So I'm just kind of tuning in, getting to know it and getting excited about what it has to offer. So I'm gonna show you 3 different crystal dragon beings, and you'll pick the one that you feel like most drawn and connected to. So the first one is this blue Apatite dragon. This is Kyanos. It was carved by Vikas Meena. That's pile 1. Pile 2 is this Amethyst dragon, Jaya. She was carved by Leandro de Souza. And pile 3 is Mirin. This is a Lemurian Quartz dragon. This was also carved by Leandro de Souza. So this is 3. It's hard for me to hold up numbers and make sure I'm showing you properly. Okay, so I'm going to jump into the first pile reading, and I encourage you now to skip ahead to whichever reading you felt called to. So if you're still with me, pile 1, this is Kyanos. Kyanos is really associated with cornflower blue, which feels like is associated with Chiron, who is a centaur, like mythologically is a centaur who taught humans about how to use medicinal herbs. He has a lot of wisdom of like speaking your truth, of connecting to plants and ancient knowledge, as well as a lot of water association. So we will kind of be tying that in. If there's any channeled messages, here are your 3 cards. So starting with the Points of View Oracle, the Points of View Oracle card is Get Low. And I really notice with this card that I don't feel like freaked out by the spider energy, which I oftentimes very much do. I am not only afraid of spiders, but I am also allergic to spiders, and the way that they move feels very skittery and hard to predict. But I notice when I see this card, despite the fact that it is a very spidery spider, it's got like little hairs on its legs and pincers, and you can see its little eyes. I don't necessarily feel like alarmed in that way. And part of it is this quality of descending. Like it feels like Get Low. It feels like it is dropping down and dropping in. So I'm going to read for you the description from the Points of View Oracle deck. Let's see. Here we go. Okay. Get Low. Get Low offers you a shift in perspective. It calls you to settle into the dirt, to see what is happening below your eye level. Like the creatures that crawl, scurry, and burrow on the floor of the forest, Get Low encourages you to see things from a point of view that is more grounded. Literally. What is happening down there? Allow yourself to lower the frequency of your energy to the earth vibe. There are rich nutrients in the soil. Lower your body, look around you, lay on your belly, see your situation from here. What do you notice? Get Low offers you camouflage. No one will see you here. You can move slowly and deliberately so you don't miss a thing. Again, this is not my words channeled or anything. This is Beth Kelly, her Points of View Oracle deck guidebook. So with that, especially, I get this sense of almost like a stone, like a flat stone falling through water as it kind of like moves lower and lower to gravity. This feels very much like an encouragement to slow down, to pay attention, to center, to like, I loved that it said like, get your belly on the ground. I wonder about just like laying on the ground outside if your weather or where you're at allows that, putting your back against a tree, kind of stretching in that way, those types of practices. So connecting that to the tarot card that I pulled is the Page of Pentacles. Again, this is from the Lilifer Tarot deck. The Page of Pentacles is, the pages are associated with earth and the pentacles are associated with earth. So this is a super earthy card. The Page of Pentacles, Lindsay Mack, who I learned tarot from, Soul Tarot, talks about the Page of Pentacles and offers this question of like, falling almost to your knees on the earth and saying like, what would spirit have me know about moving forward? And this feels like this devoted kind of return almost to your own center, to your connection with the earth, to your connection with your body, perhaps, to like asking the question of like, what next? And this definitely feels like that get low energy of like getting quiet, letting yourself like fall, like fade into the background sometimes to be able to witness and observe what is going on, to not need to like always charge ahead and hold that ground. Especially with Kyanos being associated with like medicinal herbs, I also wonder about kind of herbal supports to be even just connected, like planting seeds in an herb garden even. And that is something that feels like this is a time of year where, at least kind of in the Northern Hemisphere, we're kind of like planting seeds for the springtime to be watered, to be nourished. And then the third card is Sweet. This is from the Uncertain Oracle deck. I love, love, love this Oracle deck. It feels very intuitive. I really noticed this kind of like splash and poignant concentration of color that is like fading out, but this like boundary around what is precious and sweet. And so I wonder, you know, in this kind of pursuit of slowness, in dropping into yourself, what is something that you can drop into that is nourishing? Like I almost think of like dropping into a bathtub to be able to like decompress and almost meditate, going into like a sensory deprivation type of tank. And how do you create those experiences within your day? I mean, if you can go to one, that's great. That would be amazing. But if you can't, could it be like going on a daily walk that helps you return to your center, that helps you get quiet in your mind, that helps you tap into that sweetness, and that maybe that is the result, but also could be like the pursuit of why you're doing this is to connect to some more sweetness in your life. So that is your reading for the week ahead, group one. I don't sense any other messages that are coming through for you from Kyanos besides that, like earth and water. I get the sense, and it's interesting, the name of Beth Kelly's kind of company is Mudwitch Industries, and she talks about on her site the way that water and earth together make mud. And I do think about that with like being a heavy water and earth, that this can also be like a sweet and messy process. And so letting it be that way, if it feels like sticky or gritty or challenging, that kind of like sinking into the slowness and the mess of that can be a really sweet creative process if you leave energy for it. So thank you for watching group one. I'm going to move into group two. Group two, your being is Jaya. Jaya it's interesting because in group one, we were just kind of talking about associations with sweetness. And one of the things that is very clear of Jaya is that Jaya can help connect to joy. I feel very connected to the archetype of the Empress with her, but also it feels very resonant with the other cards that are coming up, and also with the astrology that's kind of going on right now. With Jupiter and Venus. So I'm not an astrologer. I'll mention it once in a while, but I recommend going elsewhere if you want to learn about astrology, unless it's for like an event that I'm doing in the new and full moon. So the first card for you is Sharking. This is from the Points of View Oracle. And I really noticed this kind of like circling quality and the kind of circuitous almost spiral that happens. I'm going to read it for you from here. So like I said before, these are not my words, but I do think it's a beautiful and potent message. I love how Beth Kelly kind of puts it in her book. So, sharking. One of the most ancient and revered creatures is sending you a message to move. Sharking says, keep gliding in and around relationships or conflict. This is not avoiding, but simply a way of moving into and out of experience. It is not the time to be stagnant. Stillness is not your friend right now. You need to move softly around the situation. Check it out from all angles with a slow and measured movement. You will outlast the discomfort, drama, or conflict that surrounds you. No big motions are required. An easy and continuous pace is best suited for you. Movement in the subtle body is helpful to find your rhythm. Don't get pinned down by any one person or expectation. Swim, slide, glide effortlessly, and you will find what you need. So I do see this kind of circling. I love this. It makes me think of like the spiral of growth, how we kind of come around to almost like a challenge in our life, oftentimes again and again, but spiraling up in terms of like we come to the challenge, but it's a little different. We've worked on it a little bit more. I also think of how sharks swim even when they sleep. And so this quality of like, what kind of movement, I love this movement of the subtle body as well is what stood out to me. And I think about like energetic movement or ways that you support yourself in not getting stagnant. The tarot card from the Lilifer Tarot is Strength. I love how soft this lion is in this card, and this like lush quality to it, and also like how it matches the kind of roots of this plant that is next to them. So the Strength card is really about courageous vulnerability, about being present with the fierce tenderness of yourself, especially when seen in combination with this. I see this kind of circling, and that this is not necessarily like darting into something or acting defensively. This is like, how do you kind of circle around maybe a wound or a place of tenderness to be able to come at it with the kind of stability and the kind of authenticity that you would want. I think of like, when do we need to go and like take a break from a conversation? When do we need to go have a conversation with someone else to be able to process? When do we need to like journal and move something cognitively, or sit with something and mull it over? Like, I think of that mulling process when you're like boiling herbs and there's kind of this like coming to the surface and circulating around. This is like a really sweet approach to conflict too. And I do get the sense that like this, if you were drawn to this pile, there may be something that you are working through, or if there is something that you're working through, this message may then be for you. The last card for your pile is Integration. And integration in this deck, kind of like see, it's all these rainbow colors, all these circles. So this kind of like contrasting shapes, they're starting to kind of like, there's movement in both directions. I really love that kind of energy. There's also this full spectrum experience where they're all kind of meshing and fitting together. I notice that kind of quality of like the circles being intersected and how there's these differing processes. And I think about integration and how when we are healing and re-engaging challenges that are perhaps triggering or overwhelming to us, or relational conflicts that feel like we're having this argument again, really, that there feels like there's some message about like integrating the growth that you have had, and allowing them to spiral up, allowing that to move and have a little bit of mobility and not get stuck in a cycle. And that there are perhaps opportunities not to like, when I think of cycle breaking, I think it can be really beautiful to just like cut through or to just like uproot, but that's not really the quality or the energy I'm getting. I'm getting more like alchemizing, transforming, composting, allowing like one conversation to fuel the next and not need to fully be resolved in any one of those moments. Jaya really has this energy of ability to self-advocate and speak in a way that is authentic. And I really think of that with like strength and integration, is this capacity to speak with what is most true and most alive for you, and allow that to almost like you're speaking from the voice of who you would like to be. Even if it feels like you get triggered in a situation, like allowing yourself to like really go through that and see how is that in or out of alignment. Like almost like I see that this now as like your ideal kind of version and your current self, like having a conversation and being able to like see almost like a self-editing process, like, okay, back to the drawing board. That conversation didn't go the way I needed it to. How can I come back? How can I make amends? How can I stand up for myself or set a boundary in a way that I couldn't before, but really would like to? Yeah. Okay. Group 2, that is your reading. Thank you so much for watching. I am going to move on to group 3. Group 3, your reading is, your dragon for your reading is Mirin. Mirin is a rice wine dragon. If you know what Mirin is, that is what Mirin is. But Mirin has this kind of quality of being connected to earth, being connected to water, but also being connected to like the words I often hear with Mirin is like intensifying or sweetening experiences, being able to deepen in or amplify the things that are going on in your life right now. So I'll be curious to kind of see what feels like it's coming through for his wisdom. The first one that we're going to look at is the Points of View Oracle. I'm just turning to it because like I've said, I should probably have said this at the beginning. I'm going to be reading the description from the Points of View Oracle deck. It's a very new deck to me, but also I feel like that's one of the things that stands out about this deck is that Beth Kelly really has a way with words. I think it's her that wrote the book and then another artist who did the art. But I feel like her messages are really potent and it's a very new deck to me as well. So your first card is Sit Up Straight. I really noticed this pillow, almost like feeling like this pillow is like fluffed to be able to offer some support. I'm going to read this and then we'll talk a little bit more and definitely talk about how this interacts with the other cards. So sit up straight, steel yourself. Stack your vertebrae, literally and metaphorically. Prepare yourself because it is coming. You may be thinking you are not strong enough and that you will buckle under pressure, but sit up straight encourages you to feel your strength, lengthen your spine, breathe into the space between your bones. You are strong. You are fortified by your beliefs, convictions, values, and knowing. Sit up straight affirms your confidence. No need to slump. You got this. You can handle difficult situations. Sit up straight supports you now. So in this card, one of the other things I noticed, especially with that beautiful kind of almost like affirmation oriented reading, is the quality of like the stability of the fours. And I think of like the fours in the tarot deck, like the Four of Swords, which is like creating this like space to retreat and create a practice with your mind and your cognition. It like almost gives me this boundary energy. The Emperor is a four, and is about kind of taking up your divine and sacred space and exercising your power in the world in a way that is aligned for you. And so sit up straight, this feels like almost this like bracing energy, but not in like a scared bracing, in a really like, okay, I'm like, my shoulders are square, my hips are planted, my feet are on the ground, or my legs are, you know, like whatever kind of position feels stable to you, and really like being ready to have that kind of wash over you, whatever it is that you're struggling with. And what speaks to me very much is the pillow too, that like supports a little bit of the structure, that it's not just this like stiff, but it's also like what needs supporting in this. And that really speaks to me because of the tarot card. The tarot card is the 10 of Wands. The wands are fire, the tens are completion of cycles. With this 10 of Wands, you can see that they're all kind of stacked on top of this person. There's this huge like summit of what you've been working on, but kind of the challenging edge of this is that I feel like this is walking the kind of like edge of success and burnout. And when you're feeling like fiery and continuing to kind of like move through these cycles of passion, like what projects maybe are so draining to you? What are you needing to like be able to see clearly, to be able to resource and nourish yourself so that you do not burn out in a fiery flame? I know that this is something that I tend to, when I work really hard, that I want to like be committed and devoted to something. Sit up straight really gives me this energy of like, if you're feeling like I don't have the energy to do this, I can't do this, that there is some encouragement in this particular spread that like maybe you can, but also I'm going to tie in, usually I talk about them a little more separately, but these three cards really go together. Your third card is self-compassion. And I really see all of the red, all of the fire. And I really want to feel that like it is okay. Part of how sometimes we acknowledge and square our shoulders and show up is by saying, I don't want to do that part. Is like delegating something that you don't want to do, or is acknowledging like this system can actually work on its own. I don't need to do every single bit of that. Or is saying like, I know that I'm tired. I'm going to go to bed early tonight because I really love what I'm doing tomorrow. And just kind of like really showing up for yourself and knowing that like you are doing hard things. That's the energy that I get of this. And that there isn't a need to kind of like back off necessarily, but there are perhaps some cycles, and maybe even like with this self-compassion card, maybe even cycles of why you do the things that you do. Maybe you love so much of the stuff that you're doing, but the reason you're doing it is because you feel like you are defined by your productivity and that you're not enough if you don't get your work done that day. And so one of the energies that I'm feeling from Mirin for this is saying that how can you like lean into the things that create sustainable, passionate engagement for you? So what things do you do that feel beneficial for the world around you, but also beneficial for yourself? And that making sure that the cycles that you're ending and completing are perhaps the ones that are not beneficial, but also kind of like allowing you to reap the rewards of all of the hard work that you are capable of doing to be able to start new self-compassionate, loving cycles that will kind of endure and allow you to have that kind of like structural integrity. And that, you know, this really does feel connected to the Emperor with this spread for me. Maybe it's like the Mars, the fiery energy, but to be able to kind of like rule in a way that is really agency oriented. Having self-compassion for any tools that you are using to cope with burnout or to cope with exhaustion as well. Like, how can you have resources that are maybe more supportive? Sometimes we develop resources, like for some reason with Mirin, this could totally not be meant for you, so no worries. But if it is, like sometimes we have strategies to cope with burnout or to cope with exhaustion, like drinking, like having a couple more drinks after work, or kind of using substance in a way that maybe feels out of alignment. There's nothing wrong with I encourage an approach that is very autonomy supportive. So doing what you feel like is best for you. But this is really if you feel like you're doing that because you don't have other strategies, or because you're kind of like, I need something to get through. How can you like have some self-compassion and some support that this is a part of you that is like trying to help you? And if there is a question that you could ask or pose to yourself of like, how could I do this in a way that is actually more nourishing and more supportive? So all of that, like this feels like really you're doing some hard and powerful work. Okay, so that is the end of group 3. We have moved through all 3 of the readings. Thank you so much for joining me for my first reading. My plan is to do this for you every week. And so you can come back and tune in on Sunday by the end of the day to get your reading for the week ahead. If you have any questions or feedback, I know that this is going to be a little bit of like an unedited, just like, here you go, I'm starting. But I know that like it's possible the audio video quality are not perfect, but I'm excited to get started. If you're interested in getting a collective reading or a tarot reading, my website is somaticarcana.com, and I have events every full and new moon where you can get a Reiki healing, crystalline activation, and a collective reading for the 2 weeks for the full or new moon. The next event is on April 15th. Again, this is Zelda. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.